From the start, there was I could say, a shield, a defense line. No one was giving information. Those who were giving information at times were biased, but we now understand. There are 4 groups. The first group is led by the former PS that decided to request for supplementary in order for the Ministry of Trade to shift. Now there are questions. Was this genuine? How many tenants are in that building? Why is it that they only condemned the building on request of the Ministry of Trade? How did you identify the 2 buildings, that is Kingdom and there's another building, but I think it belongs to King Caesar. How did you identify those 2 buildings as the most suitable structures, and did you do it within the law? Was there unintended purpose? Probably to get commission. Was it genuine? So there's that group now. The group led by the former PS Trade, who I believe has failed to appear thrice now. But she sent a written submission, and we are going to interrogate that. There is also a claim that there are ministers that were involved in the transfer of the ministry from Farmer's House to Kingdom, or wherever they were going. So we want to ask ourselves, how come those other tenants did not ask for supplementaries to do renovation? How come those other tenants are still comfortable where they are? All this. Now that is the first group. There is a second group now that came from the submissions with a better solution. Since Farmer's House is owned by government, let us renovate. Okay? Whether the intentions were good or not, it will be up to the members. But now, the procedures that were followed, were they within the law? How was the contractor identified? How was the contractor paid 80% as opposed to the law? And so much more that comes with that second group. There is now a third group. The third group is now emerging issues. There are staff that have been using fuel cards to withdraw more than what is expected or what is given to them. There is a claim that there are staff that have withdrawn over 300 million from their fuel cards, and yet they are allocated only about 500,000 per financial year. Anyway, we are yet to know. The transport officer is here. Then the 4th group and the last, purchase of vehicles. There is a claim that vehicles that were purchased are second-hand, and the process that had been started was altered, and instead vehicles were purchased from a bond in, I believe that bond it belongs to Mafabi in Bugolobi somewhere. And we want to know whether these vehicles, it is true, they are second-hand. We have secured their chassis numbers. We have secured their origin, right from Sharjah in Dubai, UAE, where they were bought from. We have secured their mileage at that time before they were inspected and after they were inspected. We have secured the mileage the contractor submitted to the ministry, and the contractor still claims to have a balance. We want to establish which model was to be purchased and so on. But even in the second group that decided to shift There was purchase of laptops, and there was also movement of documents, which we still don't know how much was spent, whether it was spent. But the engineer informed us in the previous meeting that he's the one who identified the people that transported these documents. I want to know, is it within the law? Now, in our previous interactions, there were accusations. There seem to be camps within the ministry we supervise. There seem to be a camp of those who are expelled or sent away for whatever reasons. There seem to be a camp of the current PS and accounting officer. They now seem to be camps even of ministers within the same ministry. It has also come to our attention, some officers are being sidelined from their jobs, yet they are still serving in the ministry. We are yet to establish how. Some people, so far their names that have been submitted, a lady called Init, and Tom Opio. Where is Tom Opio? Mr. Tom Opio, in the previous meeting, you were on oath. We asked you clearly, what is your job description as an office attendant? And you submitted and signed. Receipt and dispatch of mails, ensure safety of the office property and equipment, other duties as may be assigned from time to time by the head of the unit. And you are on oath. We took your phone, secured the court order, we have imaged your phone. We are now internalizing the data, but so far, you are very involved in everything to do with the procurement as by the data on your mobile phone. Your file is going to be submitted to the State Attorney, to the Office of the DPP, for further guidance. We further wrote to the Accountant General, Godfrey B. Semugoma. Never before has it been heard that an officer tenant is doing procurement in a ministry on behalf of government. We wrote to the Accountant General seeking the EGP and IMFS users for the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives for the financial year 2021, 2022, 2022, 2023. And he responded as follows. Reference is made to your letter, reference AB 215-287-01, dated 6 July 2023, requesting for information. Attached is a list of staff who acted on EGP, IFMS in the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives for financial year 2021-2022 to date, and all requests for change of password. Mr. Opio, on 19th January 2022, you became officially a procurement and disposal unit user. Your email address is tom.opio@mtic.go.ug. You have had access. You have been actively involved in the procurement at the Ministry of Trade. You have a password to access the system at the Ministry of Trade, and further action will be taken at the end of this meeting. The initial people who are involved in requesting for this supplementary, can we understand what processes were followed for you to ask for money to shift? Can we understand how you identified Kingdom and that building, I just seem to forget its name? King Square, King Caesar Plaza, is it? So we want now to go systematically. Then the PS who is here will present. I know the former PS is not around, but there were officers who were involved at that time. And we want to hear the story. I don't know who is going to be, who was there at that time. Mr. Everest, I believe you were there. Mr. Chorutom, you were there. Mr. Everest, tell us your story. How, we want to understand your motives, because we don't, honestly, I don't see why you would leave a government structure to rent another structure at that cost. But maybe you have your justifications. So kindly start the presentation. And if you think there's someone who was there, who is here, kindly inform us, and they also give us their side, so that we understand it from the beginning.
Thank you very much, Chair and honorable members. Everest Ahimbe once again is my name. Last year in 2021, when His Excellency the President announced a new cabinet, the one which we have currently, the ministry found itself in a very tricky situation. Initially, the ministry had 3 ministers, and this time around another minister was added, the Minister of State for Industry. And 2, the ministers of state were sharing some of the facilities, for example, toilets. But this time we had a female minister appointed, which would make the sharing of these facilities hard. And also, there was no office for the minister. Much as she's still in the building, a small office was created immediately as a temporary measure, as a solution was being looked for out of this. When you go to other floors, like floor 6, there was also sharing of these common user facilities like toilets by male and female staff and visitors, which in the modern times, I would say it is outlawed. Chair, if anybody knows Farmer's House very well, or if you ever entered through, that building through the corridors, and you looked at the number of sagging wires in the corridors, you would be shocked. And 2 or 3, the absence of a water hydrant in case the building got a problem. It would be very dangerous for every occupant at that time. I don't know when it stopped working, and even if it was reactivated, in case something happened, accessibility to put out, for example, a fire or to rescue would not be that easy. Some of us who were in that building, 2021, when a bomb went off around at IPS, and you saw the commotion that happened around, and with lack of an assembling press, all this put into context are some of the considerations that were looked at the time, that the ministry came up with a decision that shifting out of this place would possibly be better. I also understand, because I had worked with a team which the current PS had constituted, to look at the possibility of constructing an alternative office premises at MTAC in Nakawa because of undesirable conditions at the current building. In 2019, the ministry had attempted to create a project basing on the same reasons, but the Ministry of Finance was not ready to fund it because of the ongoing efforts to create a central government office at gov't, which could house most of the ministries that don't have their own premises in town. So, Chair, when all that was contextualized, the former acting PS wrote a letter dated 22nd June 2021 to the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, bringing this matter to its attention and also
what are you presenting? Can we have a copy of what you are presenting?
Chair, with your guidance, I'm tabling the letter.
What is that?
It's a letter the former PS wrote to the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development in respect of the same reasons I have given.
Office space, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Land, Housing and Urban Development, Kampala. Office space for the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives has been housed at Farmers House, Parliamentary Avenue since it was created. Over time, the number of departments and staff have grown. And generally, the purpose of this letter, therefore, is to request you to assign the Chief Government Valuer and any other relevant officer to assist in assessing the current status of the building, space requirements, as well as proposed premises to enable us to take a decision. I look forward for your usual cooperation. Grace Adongo Choda, Permanent Secretary. This was 22nd June, 2021.
Thank you very much, Chair. And the report arising out of that assessment, I already submitted it to the clerk in case the committee would want to refer to it. Chair and members, in as far as what has been said about the possible connivance to use this as a conduit to get money, it is not true. At least from the knowledge I have and where we started from when all this started, I only started hearing of it much later, that this was not a genuine cause, that the intention was purposely to get money by those who were involved in it, and that it was being led by one of the ministers of state, Honorable Bahati. Chair, In as far as how the two places were identified.
You heard it from where?
Chair, in the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, it is well known, including by colleagues, some of whom are here, who are seated on my left, and also as we are handling the renovation process as we are still in the preliminary stages, I was having a discussion with the PS, trying to update her on how far we had gone. She told me we have to move with this thing. For those who wanted to eat money, they will not succeed. Thank you, Chair.
You have not finished. How did you identify Kingdom and King Caesar Plus?
Chair, in terms of how King Caesar and Kingdom Kampala were identified, I did not participate in the identification. But what I know is that one of my colleagues, a principal office supervisor, Mr. Omunyo David, is one of the people who was assigned by the former acting PS to visit the place. But in as far as how they arrived at the two places, I was not involved in that specific bit of it. Thank you, Chair.
How was part of your team? You have Omunyo David?
Omunyo David. At one time, if I recall, I think Mr. Lapiem also was involved.
How?
If I recall, it could be one of the two people who went with Mr. Omunyo to Kingdom, Kampala and King Caesar, having been assigned by the former acting PS to look at the two places.
Mr. Lapien, how did you identify Kingdom?
Chair, the head procurement by that time, and officially that document had not come to my desk. I believe and I know what was going on is that there are some documents which are in the office there, in the file. I personally did not participate in selecting those.
So what did you go there to do?
At one time, we moved together with former PS, not like to identify, they were showing me the possible place where we could shift.
So it was a casual visit you had with the former PS to just show you?
Yeah, by that time even a decision was not made, but
But you had requested for the supplementary?
I think I'm not part of people who requested.
No, by that time, there had already been a request for supplementary, and they took you on a casual visit to Kingdom. Is this what you are telling us?
I would call it casual, because officially my role as procurement, I did not...
so what were you doing there?
I did not issue any document as a request for...
We are trying to see your involvement. What were you doing there?
I think I need to consult the document which are in the file, but my role as head PD...
What were you doing there in that casual visit? What had you gone
I
to
remember
see?
I went to 5th floor. 5th floor of that building, that a possible place that was shifting, but the document had not come to me in requisition form.
So you just woke up one day got into the former PS's vehicle. They took you to Kingdom to the 5th floor, and you toured something that had not yet come to you officially?
I would say yes.
Okay. Who else was involved with you in this process?
So far, Chair, that's what I could identify. Unless Mr. Lapiem, who visited the two places, could be knowing of other people he went with.
So when Mr. Lapiem visited, he came and told you, Mr. Everest, how did you know?
Chair, after they visited, the former acting PS called me and said they have looked at two places, Kingdom Kampala and King Caesar building, which is just across, you see it when you are in the ministry.
This Mr. Lapiem and the PS had looked at two places.
I don't know whether their looking was limited to places or even others, but me...
Mr. Lapiem, which other place did you go to?
Chair, those are the...
For your casual visit, you went to only two places?
Yes, Chair.
What is the legal process for identifying, in case you are to secure premises? As a head procurement at that time, what should have been the formal process for identifying?
Chair, like I said, the formal process for the space renting, you need to advertise and formal response or submission of bids, then you evaluate.
So had you advertised when you went to look at those two places?
No, Chair.
Okay. Anyone else involved in the first group who is not here? Okay, second group.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much for the members who did the survey on establishing whether the ministry would move. There was a letter that I found on file, and it was talking about, unfortunately, the person is not here who signed the letter, but there was a suggestion of using 20 billion to renovate, and I really wanted to look at those BOQs.
And we have that letter?
I actually thought it was inclusive of the other tenants as well. Maybe it included the other floors. I was just curious.
Do we have that letter?
I don't have that letter right now, but I can get it.
Who signed that letter?
It was Miss Grace Choda. It was a supplementary request.
To the Ministry of Finance?
Yes, it was to the Ministry of Finance, and they were saying that this current move would cost 13 billion in total, but if it was to renovate, it would cost 20 billion. So I tried to look for the BOQs that informed the over 20 billion. I didn't find it. Basically, I tried to look for the information. It was a bit scanty, but I was still curious to know where that information had come from. I thank you, Chair.
Mr. Lapiem, as you answer finance, I've seen you here. I saw them. Oh, kindly prepare. If you don't have that request, send for it. We need that document where trade asks for supplementary to do renovation of 20 billion and something to do with 13 billion. Mr. Lapiem.
Chair, I think there's a missing link somewhere here. This office space renting, it has got the whole box file. And somewhere, somehow, Minister of Works were involved in this process. And all this figure you hear about is coming from somewhere. So, Minister of Works were actively involved in this process, and the PDU as the head, I wasn't somewhere yet, but Minister of Works were involved here. So it was not from nowhere. Maybe the public structure team, they could come out and give some say about where we reach about those two premises. Thank you.
Okay, Minister of Works.
Thank you, Chairman. For us as Minister of Works, we come where there is a formal letter officially inviting us for an activity, and they would like to get that letter where they formally invited us.
Did you participate?
Chairman, we first participated in the renovation. Let me ask my officer to supplement on this. But we participate where we are invited, and what we are to give is where we are invited. My officer can add whether they were involved also in assessing for renovation of 20 billion.
Everest, you have something to say before the officer comes?
Chair, before Works comes in, the 20 billion that is being talked about, if I recall very well, it first came up in a write-up when all this discussion was starting. Because even when you look at it, the number of vehicles involved were more than 5 that were procured. They were 8. The building, in terms of the 20 billion that had been estimated, I remember Mr. Biriko of Policy and Planning had been tasked to lead that process of forming a possible request for supplementary. It was looking at the entire building because we are not sure. We had looked for structural drawings for this building everywhere, and they were not seen. So the issue was, supposing you touch one floor of this building and it comes down. So the 20 billion was estimated for the entire building, including its parking at the basement. It's not merely looking at Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. Thank you, Chair.
Works.
Let me ask my colleague here to add something.
Can we hear from Works first?
Good morning. Engineer Arinda Asha is my name. I'm a senior structural engineer with Ministry of Works and Transport. The communication that came to us about this meeting did not capture issues to do with the original plan to relocate Ministry of Trade. Therefore, our written submission today was strictly about the renovation. However, since the matter has come up, I would like to say the Ministry of Works received a request from Ministry of Trade to visit the 2 mentioned buildings and assess and confirm whether they have adequate space to accommodate the structure of Ministry of Trade as is. This exercise was carried out and a report prepared and officially submitted to Ministry of Trade for further action. That's all I can say on that matter for now. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members of this committee. I'd like to clarify on the assertion by the Principal Assistant Secretary that the current BOQs of the building currently also include the basement and a substantial part of the building. The 6 billion BOQs include the basement, and it also covers for flooding and major modifications to the building. So it is not true that the current renovations negate those facts. So that we would like to actually understand where the 20 billion is coming from.
Yes,
and how it was
we are all trying to understand, but we have no documents. We have had, there's a document, we are waiting for finance to get that document. But again, I'm wondering, you have something to say before we have a long day.
Chair, I wanted to make a clarification. What I said, I didn't say they are BOQs. And if council can quote me properly, without intending to distort what I said the head of policy and planning, Mr. Eli Biliku, who is currently in the Ministry of Works, who had been at the ministry longer than most of us, and had a better understanding of this subject matter at hand, because they had attempted to look for money previously for construction of new office premises, was tasked to spearhead as a planner the process of coming up with a supplementary budget and look for money. And in his guidance, he estimated, having looked at the information that he had, that's why it was estimated at about 20 billion, but for the entire building, not only floors occupied by Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Cooperatives. The entire building as it is.
We shall hold on to that till finance gets us that document, because we are now debating on hearsay. Can we go to the second group? Okay. The money comes in a supplementary to do rent for you to move. The current PS thinks it is wiser to save the money and to do renovation, and it's going to save government resources. She writes to finance. Finance, you are here requesting for environment. It is not actually environment. You approve her to alter work plans, but you approve without seeing a work plan. Is this true or not? Can we have finance it somewhere in front? You'll respond after.
Honorable Chair, it's true we received a request for environment, which we rejected because it was not consistent with the law. However, we did approve a change in work plan.
Did you see the work plan?
So the work plan was to...
No. Don't use cosmetic language. Did you see this work plan before you approved the change of work plan?
Chair, the proposed change in the work plan was submitted on the PBS.
It's not the first time we have met you.
Yes.
So it is a simple question. Did you see the work plan as you approved or not?
No, Chair.
Okay. Now, something irregular, you approve someone to alter a work plan without seeing what that work plan is. Okay, now, ministry, PS, you have been given the authority by the Minister of Finance to alter your work plan. Tell us the story.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning once again. Chair, I would like to also request kindly that this Friday I invite the committee to come and have a look at our building and the work we have done so far. Now, also, I have the letter which was proposing the 20 billion, but I have it in soft copy. We should be able to share
Send it to the clerk and she prints.
With the clerk, and maybe should be able to help us print it.
Move the microphone closer.
Thank you very much. Now, when actually before I arrived, I got a phone call, I think from, I can't even remember, but someone called me and said, oh, by the way, you're coming, but the place where you're coming is terrible. I think it is one of the staff downstairs in Public Service Commission. Says, so now this place we are supposed to move because the building is terrible. It floods. When it rains, some of our computers get wet. It was not even a member of staff from the ministry. So I said, well, when I come, I'll have a look and see what to do. Anyway, so upon my arrival, I think on that day when I was being inaugurated, I was told by one of our ministers that the building was condemned, and therefore we had to move. Actually, with the way they told me, I thought it was going to collapse any time. But I remembered...
Which minister?
It was Honorable Bahati. So then I remembered Mulago Hospital and all the structures that were built around that same time. And then I thought, but those structures are very strong because they were built, most of them were built by Israelites. Anyway, I didn't really think much of it. I said, well, if there is an ongoing process, let me see what the ongoing process is. So even before I could actually sit, Miss Grace Choda brought me a small file. It was a small, thin file, like with a few small pieces of paper, and it had just the options of, the two buildings, which was Caesar Square, and then also Kingdom Kampala. So I knew those two buildings already. I knew those two buildings. So I said, how much are they saying? She said, well, it's a bit on the high.
Do you have a written presentation we can follow?
I do not have a written presentation, sir, but from the letter that I submitted on the 13th of February 2023, I had given you that whole presentation and narrative in that letter.
Honorable members, how do you want to proceed? Should she continue with the verbal presentation?
We can reproduce that letter for the committee, together with its attachments, if you give us some time, please.
Honorable members? Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair, and everyone. My name is Gerard Nangori, Chair. I represent the people of Elgonos. Chair, my question goes to the PS. Did you receive a written... No. Why can't you make a
written submission? So how do we proceed? Yes, Honorable Gaffer.
There are two ways. The best should have been for the PS to have a written presentation so that we are able to follow. However, Chair, I'm seeing so many documents on this folder that relate to the issues we are talking about. Probably the other method would be if she's making a presentation and referring to the documents that we have, if that is possible, and if that is going to bring out the issues very well. Either way, for me, I think we can be able to proceed if this is going to refer to the documents we have.
Do you have all the annexures to whatever you're going to tell us?
Thank you, Chair. I have the annexures. I have most of the supporting documents. I don't see anything that I don't have. So far, even the letter, which I didn't have hard copy, I've sent it to the Clerk of Parliament, which was alluding to the 20 billion and all the other 13 billion for moving to rent. So when I looked at, I don't know if you allow me to proceed.
Honorable members, can we allow her to present, but for every fact she submits that document, then we can have copies for everyone?
Yes. And Chair, I'm also happy to also tender in a written submission for the new committee. Maybe sometime today. I'll go back and review the original submissions. I review them and then bring them up to speed again and then sign again for this current committee.
Proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. So when I looked at the MOU, which was signed between Ministry of Trade and Uganda Property Holdings under the Office of the Presidency. Actually, I thought there was an error when it read that the surcharge was 11.8 million Uganda shillings. I thought there was an error. I thought maybe it was an old document which was obsolete, and I thought that it couldn't be true. So I began to look for the manager of Uganda Property Holdings, and I managed to get hold of him, and I asked him whether the MOU indeed was correct, that was the amount we pay at Farmer's House. And then I said, well, no, it is really dilapidated. If we are paying this much, how will the manager really do any repairs at all on 11.8 million Uganda shillings a month? So with that in mind, I said, well, let me go and see what the proposals are that were handed over to me by Ms. Grace Choda. So I called the building manager on our side. It's called Mr. David Omonyo. And I told him, well, let's go to these places. You take me, and I meet the managers on the other side, and then we see how much they're also charging. Now, it was quite on the high. There were very nice buildings. Of course, anybody would want to work in those environments, but everything, of course, comes at a price. So when I also looked at the history of the building, I realized there was a sentimental value to the corporators, that their building was probably going to end up in some graveyard if we left it. And yet, in my mind, I knew we really, really wanted to put back the cooperative bank. So I thought, if we reestablish a cooperative bank for the corporators and their building is gone, probably they will never even have a chance. So I thought we could actually save money and use that money to reestablish the structures for the bank, and it could be the home of the bank or have a head office. So when I asked, they told me that building was established in 1964, the home of the corporators. And of course, many of us in this room were probably not yet born, but I'm also sure that some of our parents were in the cooperative movement at that time, because at least I'm very sure my grandparents and my parents were part of the cooperative movements in Uganda. So I looked at more of the sentimental value. I looked at the places where I come from. They have legacy buildings and listed buildings which are protected by heritage. And in my mind, I believed that this was one of the buildings which would have been protected by Heritage Uganda. So when I went to the other buildings, they were very nice and modern, but very empty, like there was nothing to attach to it. So I looked at the prices. None of them was going below $23 per month. Sorry, per square meter per month. And then I just thought it wasn't going to be viable, because if you multiplied and put it in Uganda shillings, all of them would come in at about 8 billion, 9 billion. And then when I looked at the rationalization of government agencies, and they were telling us that we are also going to host Uganda Warehouse Receipting Authority, we were going to host Uganda Export Promotions Board, I just thought there is no way we can actually survive. Then I looked at the non-wage bill of the ministry. The non-wage bill came out as 2.5 billion for a whole year supporting that ministry. And then even that budget is still not given. It would still get like about only 80% of that 2.2 to run that whole ministry, which is generating income for the whole country, because this is the second biggest GDP arm of government of Uganda and the economy of Uganda. So I said, now, if I actually add on my profit and loss account, I add on rent, which is 2.7 times that of the non-wage bill, I didn't think it was going to be viable.
How much were they going to spend per month?
In the new buildings, they were talking around $23 per square meter.
Can we avoid saying around? Can we know? Because if you took a decision, we need, for the record, we need to know the exact amount and compare.
You know what was happening when the managers were taking me around? They were like, no, but we can negotiate that. So we are between 23 to 25%. Actually, one of them said, no, about 26. So they were all, they were all talking about a range. So for me, in my prudence, I was thinking about the minimum that they had stated, which would have been 23, like the minimum cost.
23 what?
23 US dollars per square meter. So,
Clarification, Honorable Dakasi.
Thank you, Chair. Madam PS, just for purpose of clarity, so 23 US dollars per square meter, you needed how many square meters?
at that time, in the documents that I saw, we needed a minimum of 5,000 square meters. 5,000 square meters, minimum. That's what we needed. And that is excluding VAT.
Clarification, Honorable
Clarification.
Chair. For clarity, I'm seeking to know by then what was a dollar rate. Then again, when you tell us 23, I would appreciate some of us who've never even managed to hold a dollar. So could you help us tell Ugandans, because we are Ugandans, $23 per square meter, how much was that?
So, by the way, when those people were taking me around, they were also giving me quotations in dollars. But roughly, I think the dollar at that time maybe was about 3,750. But we can go back and look at the rate which Bank of Uganda was using at that time, and we recalculate. But it will bring you back to about maybe, what, 98,000? And then that was excluding taxes. So
23 for 5,000 square meters at 2,750.
at 3,750.
3,750, sorry, it should be about 431 million per month. Is this what you are saying? 431 million per month.
That minimum of 5,000. 431 million. Yes, but and that is excluding taxes, by the way. And the VAT, 5% VAT, service charge. Yes, they even had, actually, on top of that, they even had service charges on top of that. But whenever I would ask them for hard quotations, they would not give me.
Ask who?
The managers of the building. When I was looking at the building, whenever I would ask them, both of the buildings, I would ask for the hard copy documents, and they would not give them to me. So I just decided to desert the whole idea of going there to rent. And then I thought it was viable to actually stay in the traditional home of the corporators. And then we started shopping around.
Clarification.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I wanted just a clarification again. So this is for Kingdom, right?
That was for both of the buildings. That was the range.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Did you ever write asking for a quotation? And did
No.
Kingdom ever respond?
No, I didn't. I didn't write, sir. Yes, actually, at that time, sir, there was no formal procurement process that had started. But I was told, go and look at those buildings. Anyway, so fast forward, when I wrote a letter to Ministry of Works.
Chair, some
help us.
clarification. Are you saying you went to see the buildings before procurement process commenced? Were you aware people who are supposed to bid and go through, you had anticipated that so and so and so and so? So how did you go? Because I never saw you at my building.
Thank you very much, sir. I actually went to those two buildings, and I was taken around by the manager of the building. They even gave me business cards. But in the write-up, Miss Grace Choda told me, these are the two buildings we have identified. And then I asked, how did you identify? Well, they say we've done a very quick survey, and those are the two most suitable buildings. So I decided to go and have a look. I was open-minded. Yes, I did have a look, just like they said, they advised me.
It
There was no
was
formal
also
process.
a casual visit like Lapien's.
Yes.
Chair.
Yes?
Yeah, I wish to submit on behalf of my permanent secretary that before commencement of any procurement process, there is always what we call a market survey. And a market survey is done by doing what she actually did. Because that survey informs the market price that will be used or that will be put on the initiation form, the so-called Form 5. So it is always in order to do that. And actually, if you don't do it, you are also queried for not following the procedure. It's a procedural issue. I beg to submit.
Is it a formal process?
Yes, it's always a formal process.
How is it done formally?
The way they did, you can
By
decide
going
to
there and
sample.
you talk to the...
You sample, yes, you sample, you go find out about the market price, it informs you about the market prices.
Individually?
Well,
clarification, Honorable Colonel.
I want to seek clarification. First of all, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm Okelo Geoffrey Charles, Member of Parliament in Noah East. I want to seek clarification from, I forget your name. When you say you do survey, who is you in form of title? Who should do the survey?
The PPDA Act gives the mandate to the accounting officer to do the market survey. Yeah.
Chair, clarification I'm seeking. Which section is that, such that it can help us appreciate your work? Then again, how did you zero on 2 buildings? I'm interested you are doing a market survey. We have so many buildings actually next to you, next to farmers. As you're moving, you're going to Kingdom, you're going this side. How did you find your way that side? What made you think you must visit only 2 buildings?
Thank you, through you, Chair. A market survey, Honorable Chair and members, is done by sampling. You cannot do the entire population. You sample a few that will give you a representative figure if you're looking at about the price. And then you use that to initiate the procurement process.
And how did you sample those 2 buildings that are not even near farmer's house?
Let me also say, in research we have so many sampling techniques. So which technique did you use to sample the 2 as someone who's educated?
Yeah, Chair, like you, through your Chair, there are so many sampling methods. Some of them are like, they're also sampling by convenience. So any sample could suffice in this case. But I wasn't there. I'm just trying to defend the procedure.
You are trying to say, if the accounting officer by law comes and tells you, from my survey, a square meter is $50, it is what you, procurement, will put in the Form 5?
If that is what the results of the survey, the market survey says, that's what we put. But then the market determines when you advertise. Whatever is returned is what is considered. Sure. Because this is just for guidance purposes, not for final consideration.
Yes, Honorable James. Then
the officer quoted the PPDA Act. We should start from there. Should tell us which PPDA Act, what section. We should know it, then we can ask other questions. Because we are not sure which act, which section are you quoting.
I thought the officer was supplementing to the submissions of the PS. But the way I see his response, it's as if the PS actually delegated him to do the work, because he seemed to be knowing the details of the submissions of the PS. A market survey should have a report submitted. It's for the entire market. And the PS can then follow that. So through you, Chair, if that market survey report, which informed the PS's action of intentional visiting the 2 sites, can be tabled, then that is fine. Second, on price, as the PS was submitting, I did not hear any concrete price value tagged to the responses by, is it Kingdom or whichever, that later on would have influenced her decision that rent is expensive because there's no tangible price offer from a market survey. So based on what assessment are we really looking at the price if we don't have it?
Prepare to tell us exactly where in the PPD Act you are getting your assertions. Honorable Jen?
Just wanted to add that the ministry is too big to just go and talk, ask. I think it was supposed to ask for quotations. I don't think whether the PS can convince us that she went, asked for the quotations, she was not given. That is a lie. Because even us, when you go just to downtown, anyone can give you a quotation. People want business. So I'm not convinced by the what? By her presentation that she asked and she felt, for you, you're too big to just talk. You need quotations for us to prove that what you're saying is true. Thank you.
Okay, as we go back to the PS, tell us where you are quoting whatever you are telling us in the PPD Act.
Chair, I don't have my act here with me, but it is clearly stated in the legal framework, and I can provide that maybe to the clerk hereafter.
Chair, I still insist, without that we cannot proceed with that thing. We need to know exactly what the PPDA Act says.
Okay, someone wants to assist you?
Chair, under Section 26 of the PPD Act, as amended in 2021, the overall responsibility of a procuring and disposal entity lies with the accounting officer, who is the permanent secretary here. That notwithstanding, there is another question on whether quotation.
Pardon?
Yes.
Repeat that Section 26.
The overall responsibility, and it lists a number of items the PS, the accounting officer, is supposed to undertake. One of them is what we are discussing here on quotation.
Market survey?
On market survey, sorry.
It is under the PPDA that you are telling us, Section 26,
correct,
as amended.
Yes.
It is the accounting officer who does the market survey.
With the overall responsibility of a procuring and disposal entity. And under Section 26, it lists a number of items that the accounting officer is supposed to undertake. One of them is having a price. So, and the price is obtained through a market survey. And there was a question.
And how do you obtain them? How do you carry out the market survey?
A market survey.
Chair. Honorable Keller?
I like the officer to be very specific. That section gives her the overall, but does not specifically states that she has to undertake personal market survey.
Let me clarify for you. It is Section 26, FA.
Read it verbatim.
Can you read it?
26 FA, certifying that the price of works, services, supplies to be procured conforms to the prices in the guidelines issued by the authority.
No.
Does that answer anything to do with survey?
Answer, you are just juggling with the law to dodge.
The clarification I want to seek is that, so if the Act says certifying, Chair, does that mean that there should have been some information for her to certify? I think I appreciate the actions of the PS attempting to find out what is out there. But Chair, I get the feeling that maybe somebody else did not do their work, prompting the
the PS to go there in person. Otherwise, I don't see the PS going to do this donkey work of finding out, small things. I think by this time, if I use the word to certify, it means there is a document for which the accounting officer is certifying. In this case, what document is that? And I think that's what we've been trying to ask. What document? Did anyone do a survey? Was there a report? So that she's certifying. At this point, if I listen to the PS properly, there was nothing. She just went there to find out what is out there. So did someone not do their work?
Okay, now, Council, you referred to section 26 of the PPDA. Which one specifically? F. FS says, certifying that the price of the works, services, or supplies to be procured conform to the prices in the guidelines issued by the authority. So what are the prices in the guidelines?
The guidelines give various prices. One, that determine the choice of procurement. Two, the mode of procurement. And
what are they? I'm asking, what are the prices? In the guidelines issued by the authority?
For the guidelines issue several prices. I do not know the specifications.
We are using the exact law you have quoted.
Yes.
And it refers to they must conform to the prices in the guidelines issued by the authority. So if you want to use this to justify why the accounting officer is in charge of the market survey, you need to tell us
Chair,
what these prices are.
I would like to help the discussion, Chair, through you. My understanding is that the prices would have been determined by the budget, and that budget was the budget issued by the supplementary. But while we were going to look, I actually also downloaded the Knight Frank report on top of the two, because I asked Madam Grace Choda, because actually she left after about 3-4 months. She was still around with us. So I asked her, how did you come up with just these two buildings? Just like Honorable Mbwa was talking about, why did you do only these two buildings? So at that time, somehow the destination hosts, that is Kingdom, the proposed hosts, Kingdom and King Square, they were not forthcoming with information. And even on her file that she gave me, there were no quotations for those very buildings. If we had them, I would not even bother maybe going. Maybe what would take me there I would want to see the conditions of the building, to see if they were fit for purpose, because we had been told that the environment of staff, the staff welfare, had to be fulfilled. So for me, that is where I went. But the prices were still higher than where I was sitting at Farmer's House. All the quotations, even if you tell me $5, it was still higher than where I was sitting at Farmer's House. So what we decided to do at that time, so the pricing would have been the 8 billion, which was recurrent, and then we ignore the one-off costs, which were the partitioning and furniture. Maybe the furniture would have been bought, because the furniture there was so old. When I took it to Entebbe, the PS called me and told me that the person who she allocated to help us receive our furniture, they said that our furniture was so bad they had to throw some of it out. It came with bags. Same thing with the records. Some of the records came in with bags. So we even had to buy disinfectant. Now it means that even this furniture could not be used. I have pictures. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Procedure.
In the end.
Procedure. Yeah, I look like they are trying to dodge the question we have brought forward. The other officer is telling us the PS went to see those buildings. There's a law in PPDA that guides. And we are getting this thing that the price they're talking about is from the given by the authority. Again, he's saying he has never advertised for those buildings, if you hear it well. And I believe the authority they're talking about is the PPDA of Ministry of Trade. See the confusion there?
Now, Trade has a senior legal counsel. Sandra, what does the law say about establishing the market price? Market survey, I think that's what we are talking about. And why is it that if you are the senior, maybe the PS should tell us what crime you are doing. Why is it that you are not the one addressing these matters?
Chairperson, I can't answer that question, unfortunately. I don't know for what crime. Maybe if I've committed a crime, then maybe I should be arrested. But I can't answer that question right now. About the PPDA law, I've requested for what I have is the old one. I've requested for the amended one, then I can address you.
Honorable Solomon.
Yeah, Chair, according to what we are getting here, it's like the PS also surveyed through allegations that they might have we might want these buildings. I think we should proceed on another issue. Nothing new can get from
I think it is conclusive that we don't actually have formal prices even for those two buildings. We have just an informal interaction, but we don't have formal prices. But we know Parliament is renting some of these buildings. So we can do an estimate of what we are paying, for example, at Kingdom, to get the benchmark for those two buildings. But there was no formal request from the Ministry of Trade to establish the exact amount that was to be paid. So let's go to another issue. Okay, now,
Chair,
why don't you?
I just want to make a small correction in terms of the total space that was being looked at.
But you are talking to us while eating. First finish your food. Madam Geraldine, please conclude.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Chair.
Yes, Honorable
yes. Can we then say from the submission of the PS, who's the head of ministry, that the entire thing about rent was a hearsay? The PPDA wasn't followed, there's no documentation, and we resolved that this is a hearsay and there's nothing to tussle about, so that we resolve it.
Thank you very much, sir. Actually, in a way you are right, because in my handover notes, there was nothing. I still have them. There was nothing that was showing the prices. That's the reason I actually went out there. And even when I went out there and I requested the manager to give me their quotations for their building, because every single time you go out as a tenant looking for space, the building manager normally hands you a standard quotation. I asked for it when I went. I was never given it for both buildings. So, and they just kept telling me, well, you just come, just support us. But they were very reluctant in issuing, so there was no point in me even writing at that time. And you know that I could have written.
Excuse me, Chair.
But,
Chair, clarification from Madam Sali.
Yes,
I want to know whether the manager is one for both buildings. Then how come that the two managers refused to give you the documents? You must be telling lies somewhere.
Madam, I don't know what benefit I would get to tell lies, because I was with David Omunyu. We were working together, so maybe you can also call him. We were with him, so I cannot come here and start to tell you lies, ma'am. But all I know is that the prices, even when I kept comparing, because my benchmark was the 11.8 million per month. That was it. And if anybody could beat that one, at least maybe they would have persuaded me. But if you cannot go below 11.8 million Uganda shillings per month, I could not have moved now.
Yeah, some clarification. PS.
Yes, please.
Do you consider your visit as informal or it was formal?
It was a formal visit for me, because if it was informal, it would have been maybe if I was looking for my private tenancy, as Geraldine said.
Okay.
But because I was doing it on behalf of the ministry, and I was received, and the appointments were set by Mr. David Omunyu, we were given time slots in which to come, and they said they would receive us. Indeed, when we arrived, the managers were there, even some of the family members.
In that regard, as your explanation that it was formal,
Yes.
as a PS, if you have any formal meeting or any formal visit, you're supposed to make a formal report. Is it true?
It would be very good to actually have a formal report.
So do we have any formal report after your formal visit?
There were no formal documents handed over to me.
No, a report. Please,
So-
Chair, through you and honorable members, if I went to a certain office and I'm denied the right to have any document, I will come and write my report and say this is what is on the table.
They were calling us back for negotiations. They told us, you come and then we talk properly, we have negotiations.
So we consider it as formal or informal?
It was a formal meeting.
But with
even
no
though
report.
It wasn't documented.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Honorable members, you cannot do a market survey and fail to produce a report. I think we have observed. Why don't you let us go to the other issues?
Chair, this is just my last on this. P.S. If there was no pricing, no quotation for the proposed office space, what informed the request by the former PS, the 5 billion that you found in office? If there was nothing, why not 8 billion, why not 20 billion? And I remember in your submission, you said, you talked about a letter you found in the office by the former PS, who had written to the Minister of Finance, suggesting for 20 billion for renovation. Could there have been a process, in your view, because you in the office knew, that might have followed, or any other person having this kind of information about these decisions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. When I looked at the little paper file that I was given, I flipped through it, and all I could see was just the options of going to Kingdom and the options of going to the Caesar Square. I didn't see much. There was not so much information. I also have some handover notes which she gave me, but there was nothing. There were no tangible documents to that effect. So what I believe is that there was no real procurement process that had started. I also asked the people in the PDU unit.
Procedure, Chair.
Honorable members.
I was just saying we need to go to another item. That going to survey was illegal. There is no law
The
towards
issue of the
that.
survey has been concluded. We have observed. Whatever we decide to, how to interpret it, will come at the report writing. But we have all observed. So can you proceed with the next chapter? Okay, you decided. You have just been justifying why you preferred to renovate as opposed to renting. Works. When Trade decided to do renovation, they asked you to do BOQs for that renovation. How much were the BOQs? And what was the process followed?
Honorable Chairperson, let me ask the officer who handled. We delegated her to handle that assignment fully.
Thank you, Chair.
Pull your microphone closer.
Thank you, Chair. This is a copy, this is a written submission, and this is an attachment of all the correspondences and submissions that Ministry of Works has made on this matter to, so I would like to hand this over for the record purposes and for further study by the committee.
Honorable members, you can read through. Please don't.
We have additional copies of the written submission.
Written submission copies. Kindly proceed.
Our submission is strictly highlighting the chronology of events as far as the renovation works at the offices of Ministry of Trade. And this commenced on November 21st, 1st November 2021, sorry. That's when Ministry of Trade requested for technical assistance from Ministry of Works regarding the renovation of their offices and assessing the viability of accommodating another floor at Farmer's House. The communication to that effect is attached as Annex 1. Accordingly, the Ministry nominated a multidisciplinary team that had an expert in M&E, architecture, civil engineering, and quantity surveying to undertake the assignment. Our role as a ministry commenced on 4th January 2022. The first task we did was to prepare a preliminary assessment report. This preliminary assessment report basically was to look at the building, that is Farmer's House, and advise Ministry of Trade whether it is even worthy to begin with to invest in renovations. The preliminary assessment report was prepared and submitted to Ministry of Trade on 8th February 2022. The submission letter is attached as Annex 3, and the preliminary assessment report is also on the same annex. From the assessment, we discovered that indeed it was okay to renovate the building, and also tests were carried out to confirm the structural integrity of the building. A detailed assessment and documentation of the required renovations was carried out, and a presentation of our findings was made to the management of Ministry of Trade on 9th May. During this presentation, we highlighted our findings. A copy of that presentation has been attached as Annex 4. The detailed assessment that was carried out resulted in as-built and proposed architectural drawings, a detailed assessment report, and preliminary cost estimates. The preliminary cost estimates at that time were amounting up to 3,136,120,159 Uganda shillings, inclusive of 5% contingency and 18% VAT. During the presentation, a number of issues were raised by the management of Ministry of Trade. Key among those were the flooding in the basement that had not been captured. Another concern that was raised was electrical M&E fittings that were in disarray. This had already been confirmed by our M&E person. From those discussions, we also had issues to do with the timelines. How do we renovate this building while still occupying this? From those concerns raised in that presentation, the Ministry of Works team went back on the drawing board, considered their concerns, and in the process, we reviewed the cost estimate. At the time of reviewing the cost estimate, it increased from 3.1 billion to 4,664,315,682, inclusive of 5% contingency and 18% VAT. Mr. Chair, the documents that we've given you have both the preliminary and final cost estimates that were arrived at by the Ministry of Works team that undertook this assignment. On 16th May 2022, Ministry of Trade, wrote to the Permanent Secretary delegating the procurement of renovation works to the ministry. Annex 7. On 19th May, our PS responded, highlighting the timelines for the procurement and requesting PS of Trade to provide assurance that the funds for the construction will be available after the closure of the financial year. At that time, our PS highlighted that we will need 3 months to finish the procurement process. On 20th May, the ministry wrote another letter to our ministry requesting for technical support in the procurement process and highlighting that they were going to handle the procurement process themselves due to the urgency. The communication on that effect has also been attached. Fast forward to 27th May 2022, I, Engineer Asha Arinda, received a phone call from Mr. Tom Achera, from the procurement department, requesting for the necessary documentation to carry out the procurement. The required documentation was shared via an email on the same day. I have attached the correspondences between myself and Engineer Achera and Mr. Tom Achera. The team also went ahead and provided technical guidance. I personally went to Ministry of Trade and entered the information on the EGP system that was required as far as technical side is concerned. During that same time, 3 officers from Ministry of Works were nominated to be part of the evaluation team. That is myself, Engineer Asha, Samson, a QS, and Shafiq, an Eman, a services engineer. We were nominated and we participated in the pre-bid meeting. The process that had been undertaken was restricted bidding. Chair, I do not recall all the firms that were invited at the time, but maybe the procurement team of Trade can clarify. The only memory I have is there were around 4 firms, and only one ambitious construction company returned the bid by closing date. We did not get to carry out the evaluation, and we are not aware of what happened with that procurement process. On 28th June 2022, Ministry of Trade wrote to our PS notifying him of the signed contract and requesting him to release the team to meet with the contractor on 30th June. That correspondence has been attached. We attended a meeting chaired by the PS of Ministry of Trade. In that meeting, one of the key things that came out was who are going to be members of the contract management team. This team had the 3 officers from Ministry of Works and 3 other officers from Ministry of Trade. That is Engineer Dero, Mr. David Ntegeki, and Mr. Tom Achera from Ministry of Trade. These were the nominated members of the contract management team as nominated in the meeting that we attended. We held a startup meeting with the contractor on 19th July to discuss project management issues and agree on the site handover. However, while reviewing the contract documentation, the team noted that some information was lacking, resulting in a number of correspondences via email with the contractor who was awarded, that is Ms. Sarik Construction Limited. One of the key things that came out clearly was that Mr. Sarik had not submitted the securities that were required. Key personnel were also not clearly highlighted, and because of that, I personally sent emails. The correspondences between myself, copied to the rest of the contract management team and to the PS of Ministry of Trade, have been attached as annexed of. So we did not receive any feedback from the contractor, and because of that, this prompted me to write a contract management memo dated 2nd August 2022, requesting the PS of Ministry of Trade to prevail on the contractor so that he can provide the required performance securities and we are not in breach of the law. That contract management memo has also been attached, and the draft letter that prepared has also been attached. Mr. Chairman, that was on 2nd August. To date, Ministry of Works team has not received any feedback, and we did not do anything further as far as that project is concerned. And we have not been involved in the construction supervision. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, now there are issues here. Ministry of Works did a revision to a total of 4.6 billion, and you are among the people who are nominated on the contracts committee. The final quotation, then I don't know how it became 6.2 billion, yet you are seated on that contracts committee.
Contract management
team, okay. But you had revised to 4.6. So, who can tell us how it went to 6.2? Procedure?
A quick one. This engineer from Works is giving us very useful information through this.
She's going to sign.
How I wish she just signs one copy.
We have already requested.
The one copy has been signed, the one that is attached to the...
You sign more, about 2 more copies. Okay, now, yes. Pass. You are there, much as you have issues, it seems you have been interdicted for some other issues we are yet to know, and we want to know, it will help us tell who you are. But the Ministry of Works quoted 4.6 after revision inclusive of VAT and contingency of 5%. How did you give a contract of 6.2 billion? Procurement is here. What process did you go through to give this contractor this job? We also have the accounting officer, the accountant, who paid 80% as opposed to the law. And it seems, because in the previous meeting they said this contractor didn't have bank guarantees, we are seeing the Ministry of Works also having a similar concern. So now one of you, whoever is ready, please start.
Chair.
Procedure, why do we have procedures, member?
The presenter from Ministry of Works, in his presentation, said they were supposed to be part of the evaluation team, but they were left out. I'm wondering, at a later stage, they got involved in the process again after they have been left out, and that was the critical part of the work. Evaluation, how do you go back and then work on something you have not done the evaluation?
Maybe you respond to that first.
Yeah. As Ministry of Works, our role is to offer technical support to all government entities as and when they request for it. We were called in to assess and document the cost of the renovations, which we did. We were appointed on the evaluation committee. By the way, this appointment, I know it because I entered information on the EGP. There was never a formal letter written to us on that effect. We never received any communication to come and evaluate. And the people who had been called in to bid in the restricted bidding process were 4 firms who, at the time I entered information, the EGP, were different from the final person who got the job. So I think that
Pardon.
During the first procurement process that we were a part of, I want the team to note that there were 2 procurement processes here.
For renovation?
Yes, there was the first process that we were a part of, where we attended a pre-bid meeting that did not have SARIC. The only firm that I can remember is Ambitious. I don't remember the rest. Procurement of Trade can clarify who were the other parties invited. And by the time of bid closure, only Ambitious had returned the bids. What happened to that procurement, we do not know because we never got to evaluate. But I think along the way, maybe the process was cancelled and a new process commenced. At that point, that was done without the involvement of Ministry of Works. And it is what resulted in
SARIC emerging the best evaluated bidder and him signing a contract with Ministry of Trade. When Ministry of Trade comes back to us, to our ministry, and requests our PS for support now at implementation stage, I think, Chair, it was in order for us to go and offer them the support they needed. Thank you.
Maybe the PS can respond.
Thank you very
The
much,
procedure,
Chair.
Chair.
No. Please respond.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Engineer Ash, for your submissions. On the issue of the first process of the procurement for the renovation works, my understanding is that there was a company called Ambitious, which we were already using in our Mpondwe border post, and they were doing a good job, so they were invited. But my understanding is that they declined. I understand they were contacted about 7 times, and then eventually they declined to participate. And I think Mr. Chwera here was the 8th person to call Ambitious to participate. So now when the best person declined to take up the role, I think we now had to go back to reevaluate. And we thought that it was not a responsive sample when you had only 2 remaining bidders. And I think that's how I called some of my PSs, and then the PS of Education said, well, there's a certain contractor who's just done for us work. So I asked these people, do you know any other people who we can add on? Then I handed it over to Mr. Thomas Chwera. So I would request that he clarifies the whole process, how we actually ended up with SARIC. We also talk about the guarantee that they got, and then we can also talk about the participation of Ministry of Works on the project team. But that one I would ask Mr. Deobi Aruhanga, who's the project manager, who I appointed to be the project manager for the ministry, to take on the submissions of the participation of Ministry of Works. I thank you, Chair.
Just before someone else comes in, permission was given by Ministry of Finance for you to alter the work plan on 7th June 2022. However, this SARIC company was approved on 30th May 2022. How is it that you approved a contractor, even through the contracts committee, on 30th May, yet Finance gave you the permission on 7th June?
Thank you, Chair. I believe those processes can actually run concurrently, and it is okay.
Before they give you permission to alter your work plan, you can already start giving a person a contract?
Because the very first time I came here, Chair, I explained to you that we had a very big discussion with the PSST before those those letters were issued, and we agreed in principle that it is better for us to stay. He said he wouldn't afford to pay anything over and above. If we can sever that situation and have a one-off payment which can fit in the rent, he said that was better. So we actually agreed in principle, and I maintain that, sir.
So Finance, did you have a meeting?
Clarification, Chair.
Clarification? Can you first conclude this matter?
Chair, I'm called Macho.
Yes. Can we hear from Finance first? Then Macho, you'll come in.
But Chair, mine is just a small matter of clarification.
Okay.
Chair, I was clarifying.
Microphone is off.
Chair, I was clarifying whether this is truly the permanent secretary for the Ministry of Trade, because the mood the lady is talking in is not the mood that the lady that was in the press conference at the ministry talking. The fact if they meet each other, they can fight and kill each other. We might be dealing with the twin sister of the other permanent secretary of Trade. So I'm clarifying, Chair, whether she's the one, whether she's the true permanent secretary for the Ministry of Trade. Thank you, Chair.
She can introduce herself once again for you to prove. Honorable Mbaz,
Chair, the clarification I'm seeking, I want to be educated about restricted bidding, the pros and cons of restricted bidding. You can educate me since you opted for that. It will help us understand and appreciate.
Clarification, just Chair, I wanted the PS to clarify to us whether the person who was first chosen, that she says declined, whether they wrote that they have declined their position to take over the offer before we went to Sarik.
Request Mr. Chair to take the...
She has asked but Honorable Macho wanted you to clarify with something. Are you the one?
Yeah, because the other one was very arrogant, this one very calm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Honorable. What the
microphone closer a bit.
What the engineer of Ministry of Works stated, actually, it is true. The thing started, they were supposed to be involved in this procurement. But when we issued...
Maybe move it closer.
When we issued the documents out to the... Actually, when... it started when we entered this thing on EGP, because we were doing it on EGP. Documents we sent on EGP. 3 firms were invited. But out of the 3 firms which were invited, only Ambitious responded to the bid. So now when we opened the bid, Ambitious had quoted about 6 billion point 5 or 7 there. I don't remember so well. Because the whole thing got corrupted.
Order, Chair. Order,
so
Chair.
Now from there,
Chair, order.
When we opened the bid.
Order, Chair.
Order.
Chair, the World Health Organization and the government of Uganda declared Uganda COVID-19 free. And here at the same time, the medics say the purpose of the mask is to cover the nose in particular in terms of COVID infections. I don't know whether the officer who is presenting is in order to present with a mask when he has left his nose very much open and closed only the mouth, and that he's talking and nobody is hearing what he's saying from our side.
I'm very sorry. I have some bit of sickness. I have some cough which I feel I may infect others. So you could excuse me to continue with that.
I think
because cough is continuing.
He has a cold and he's taking precaution.
Yeah.
But Chair, Macho has a point. If he's covering himself, when we see the nose is outside, what is he covering?
Sorry for that. As I was talking...
Okay, cover your nose, but pull it closer.
All right.
The microphone.
I was already presenting that what the engineer of work stated is true. We started this procurement on EGP, and we issued the bidding documents to 3 firms. But only 1 firm returned the bids. When 1 firm returned the bids, we opened on the system. Now, since it was only 1 firm which returned the bid, we fear to proceed with 1 firm because it would appear as if only how do you deal with 1 firm? So I tried to call Ambitious to ask him, because our EGP got corrupted and we could not proceed to get those documents from the system. So we decided to go manual. So I called those people of Ambitious. I said, please, we have opened your bid, but now our system is not working. So what you do, you send us the hard copy so that we can get other firms and you compete, because you cannot go only with 1 firm. When I called, the manager of Ambitious told me, because I called him, I said, I'm calling from PDU, I'm called Tom Achwera. We issued the document to you, but now through the system. But now our system has failed. We cannot proceed with the other thing. I need a hard copy of your bidding document. The guy told me, so far I've received phone calls from 7 people. You are the 8th person calling me. I'm no longer interested in that procurement. Mark me right. You can follow my phone when I call. So when I came back, I said, now, we can now not go with ambitious. We decided to call Sarik, Silkal, and Jacks. So it is the 3 firms which we went by. When we called them, the method of procurement we used was restricted bidding. And this restricted bidding, we decided to use it because this procurement was supposed to be what? Open bidding. But open bidding required advert in the newspaper, and then what? 20 days of bidding period, 14 days of the evaluation report, and that process of going to the sending draft contract to the Solicitor General. So we found that within this time space remaining, there was no way we could complete this procurement when we used open bidding. So we decided to use restricted bidding. I even called PPDA Advisory Services Unit to ask them about this. I said, can we proceed with this procurement using restricted bidding method? He said, yes, as far as you can give proper justification. I asked the person, I said, but now, in this case, there is insufficient time to complete this procurement when we use open bidding. Can that one be enough to make us use the restricted bidding method? She said, yes, it is a matter of law.
Procedure. Honorable Fidra, then Honorable Ngwa.
Chair, thank you. The submissions from the Minister of Trade are very critical, the way they are flowing. They are really unearthing so many of these things. But a lot of the conversations are over phone. And this being government, no written submissions to support what the PS was saying about. Could it be procedural right that the Speaker be put on off, because this is a critical piece of the entire procurement, so that if there are no letters to supplement that, then we can know that the submissions are true submissions from him. Thank you.
Okay, the Honourable Member has requested we put the Procurement Office on oath. Anyone with a contrary view? Rule 212. Examination on oath or affirmation. Anyone with a contrary view? Contrary? Yes, Honourable Dero.
Thank you much, Honourable Chair. You know, it's one of the problems of coming late. Thank you so much, the presenter. Honourable Chair, my contrary view is that the way the colleague is submitting from the Minister of Trade, I think we could give him more time to continue to submit to us if he has any document to give us than to put him on oath at this time. No.
Clerk, administer the oath.
But this information can be extracted from EGP. If they...
You will give it to us, but on oath. The members have requested.
If they
do not say it,
yes,
and speak nothing but the truth. The truth. Clerk, oath.
Chair, like for this case, the thing was on the system, and I called him.
It was not a request.
To respond.
I did not request you.
Yes.
Clerk, administer the oath.
I just beg the Superintendent. I, Roma Chair, affirm that the evidence I shall give touching the matter before this committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth.
Chair, I'm seeking clarification.
Can he finish before? Okay, clarification, Honorable Mbwa.
Thank you so much, Chair. Now that our witness has already taken oath, before he was to take oath, I saw him struggling to furnish us with some of the information which I think is very important. But Honorable Chair, the clarification I'm seeking from him, being a government employee for so long, and the nature of communication is telling us how they were trying to communicate with the contractor who was given not Sherik, I think this one is ambitious, all the phone conversations. We know, do you have an email? We know how government works. There are email addresses that you can send someone and you expect a response, or there is no response. Is there any way we can appreciate that this conversation was formal? Either you sent an email to ambitious, if not, then when these people, other people invited people to come on board, the amount of money that ambitious even requested, can we appreciate your work?
Because actually, by then, ambitious, when they returned their bid, before they returned the bid, even they were invited on for the pre-bid meeting. They came and attended, but they were the only ones who returned the bid, the only firm. There were two firms which attended the pre-bid meeting. The other firm never turned up. So, after opening the bid, I know because the system had failed. This is what I was saying. The system failed. I could not extract the other bid document from him, so that I call others, then we match. Then I asked him to give me the hard copy of the bid which he had worked on, so that I make comparison with these other bids from the three suppliers. But he said he's no longer interested in this proposal.
Clarification, Chair. Clarification, just a minute. You said you used open restricted bidding, not so?
Restricted bidding, not open bidding. It was supposed to be open
bidding. You used restricted bidding.
Yes.
What is the maximum amount as required by the law for you to use that method?
Open bidding.
Restricted. The one you used.
Restricted million is below. Restricted bidding is below 200 million.
How much were you looking at in this contract?
6 billion.
Clarification, Chair.
No, sorry. Let me correct. For works, it is different.
Yes, even for works.
Sorry, I mentioned.
What is the maximum for works?
The maximum for works is, for open bidding, is 500 million and above. But 500 million below is restricted bidding.
Yes, this is what I know.
Yes.
For you to have used restricted bidding, the contract total sum should have been below 500 million as required by the law. procurement officer, am I right?
But
you used it for a contract of 6.2 billion.
I used it because there was insufficient time to complete.
No, the law is very clear. It's not about time.
Procedure, Chair.
Procedure. Honorable
Macho. Chair, I see a lot of stammering from the statements of the officer who is submitting. And Chair, as my colleague Honorable Mbwa really brought a matter of clarification earlier, government is not a love affair that you talk on phone and put it down. The fact even love affairs in Busia, we go these days on WhatsApp so that we have evidence that I talked to her. I don't know whether we are proceeding well by the officer who is submitting, quoting ambitious without any evidence to lay, and even referring to the Minister of Works without even a document. I don't know whether also to the Minister of Works he was also calling love calls. So, Chair, I don't know whether we are proceeding well in this matter. I see the officer trying to waste time of the committee. He should come out openly.
The document for Minister of Works.
And Chair, I need your protection. I need your protection, sir, Mr. Chairman of this committee.
Kindly switch off your microphone, let the members ask for clarification where they need to, and you respond.
So, Chair, as I finish my matter of procedure, I'm submitting whether we are proceeding well by the officer gambling with the statements without evidence to lay before the committee. Because government systems operate with evidence, and evidence is black and white. Black and white are not written on water, in Busia they are written on a paper.
Okay.
If we can submit that and lay, I think we'll be proceeding.
The gentleman make a presentation, said he's no longer at the ministry, so he doesn't have access to that system. That's why he can't get us that information. But there are people here who have access to that system, and they should be able to print for us that information on the system. Honorable Gaffa, Honorable James, Honorable Kello, Honorable Jen.
I'm just, please, I am asking. There is a question you asked, Chair, and it was not responded to. And I thought Mr. Tomo would give us a clear answer. Engineer Asher submitted this and said the second review of the works was 4.6 billion. The contract that was awarded was 6.2 billion. Chair, you asked the question, how this figure changed from 4.6 to 6.2. I thought this was not responded to. Even when you are asking about restricted bidding, what is allowable in the law, but they should have responded to how the figure changed from 4.6 to 6.2. And then we can proceed.
Can we have that answer first? Microphone.
I was cut short whether I was now going to depend on the restricted.
You see, you are not going direct. Answer the question they have asked.
And he said about the restricted bidding first.
No. He has just asked you, how did it go from 4.6 to 6.2 billion? You are the procurement officer.
This one went from that amount, from 4.6 to 6 billion, because there was some additional issues which arose during the pre-bid meeting. Those ones were not captured in the order.
Who raised the issues? Because the technical people you asked to guide you from Ministry of Works?
The providers, when we called them for the pre-bid meeting.
Clarification. Sir, I wish to inquire.
Yes.
What made your team kick the team out, the Ministry of Works out, to make sure that they did not participate in the other bid meeting, the other restricted bid meeting?
Now this one was brought in-house because the other system failed and we could not proceed with it. Then these people also were a bit committed. The committee...
A moment.
Yes.
We were very committed. Then...
I remember I called Engineer Aisha And then she told me right now she's so much committed to the extent that she may not be able to work, to continue with her.
Previously, these people, they wrote formally to the PS to be engaged in their job. So when you say you called, you as who? What prompted you not even go through your PS, write to them, and you say, we have something new on board? You as who?
From the document, and the PS confirmed, Engineer Asha Arinda, the senior structural engineer in the Ministry of Works, was appointed as the team leader of the project management team. And the entire team, you put them aside and decided to do your own things. And we see the figure changing from 4.6 billion to 6.2 billion at the end. And from that point, you have never involved them up to now. What does that mean?
Okay, that one.
No, just a minute, pass. You are also involved in this. The meetings we have had, you have been talking about this, the figure. Kindly tell us, since everyone is here, we want to get this out of the way. Everyone should be able to give clarity when you are all here. How did it move from 3.1, 4.6 to 6.2? And in a summary, so that they can also defend themselves.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Like you said, I have submitted severally on the figure of 3.1 billion, and I don't intend to move away from it. Like Engineer Asha said, that when we had a meeting, a management meeting with them, and they made a presentation, they made a draft presentation of the bills of quantities, which amounted to 3.1 billion at that time. And after that meeting, it was agreed. Like I said, I shared an email with the committee, which I communicated to PS when she asked me to come up with 3 options.
Which
about
PS?
The accounting officer in this meeting, on my side, Chair.
And you were working as who at that time?
As the Principal Assistant Secretary, but also coordinating the team on this exercise. I communicated to her in an email the 3 options, and which option I felt was a better one. That's how we ended up writing a letter to Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works Transport, in procuring on our behalf, given the technical capacity it possesses in this area. I've shared that letter of 3.1 billion to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Works. I was tasked to follow up the response, which response Engineer Asha referred to in her communication. When I came back with the response from the head procurement at Ministry of Works, PS said, no, I will still proceed with this procurement irrespective of what. Go right away on the system and initiate a procurement on EGP, to be specific, which I did at 3.1 billion out of the 5 billion which we had at that time. Chair, having submitted, I went to the Undersecretary, who is the head of the department, because it has approval stages, and told him I have submitted, kindly approve, since we don't have much time, which he did, and it proceeded. Until much later, because I was concerned about timelines, I went to Mr. Chwela and asked him, Mr. Chwela, are we still on course? Time is not on our side. Is the procurement progressing? He said, no, the procurement is progressing, and quite well. And in any case, PS has already given me a list of firms which to invite. I also relaxed. I went to my office, and that's it. Since I was sure that the procurement for which we had been tasked to handle was moving. Then later on the 20th of June 2022, the personal assistant to the PS calls me.
Who is
that?
that?
That is Enid Chomujisha, Balaba. She says, Pastor, I have something here very urgent which you need to sign for me. I was in a meeting at office of the president. PS had left me there. I said, when I get to office, I will call you. Immediately I reached, I called Enid. She came with a last minute, a requisition for advance payment of the contractor of 4.8 billion out of the contract sum of 6 billion. I don't know the other figures which follow, since I had not participated. I told her, Enid, much as you want to sign, you want me to sign this, and I have been participating. With what I am seeing, I don't think after I submitted, I continue to participating, because ordinarily as a member of the user department and having initiated the procurement, I should have participated in evaluation, which I never did, because I was never contacted. So I declined to sign this document. Later on, after a few days, I had gone to the other.
Why did you decline again?
My argument to her is that what I was seeing was alien to me, because I'd never participated in that kind of procurement. The procurement which I knew was to the tune of 3.1 billion. And I could not commit myself to something whose origin I didn't understand.
Clarification, Chair.
Can you first finish? We don't have time.
Thank you very much, Chair. A few days later, I'd gone to Undersecretary to consult him on something, whereby I found Tom Opio holding what I came to understand as the contract document for the same. There was Mr. Herbert Tumweraze, the principal accountant then, and if my mind, if I remember very well, I think there was also senior accountant, Mr. Nelson Baryejusa. And the issue was about how can this payment be made in the absence of performance securities, like the engineer from Ministry of Work stated, because I understood that the PA had declined to make the payment because he was not sure whether the government money at this point would be safe or not. And there was also Mr. David Mutegeki, I remember, the legal counsel. And in that same meeting, having a background which understands some of these matters, legal and procurement, they also asked me what my view was. And I said, looking at the percentage that you are proposing to pay, it is against the law. The law provides for 30%. Here you are proposing to pay much over that. And two, in the absence of letters of credit.
Don't tell us a very long story. Tell us straight. We want to know how it went from this figure to this figure. Simple.
If that is the case, Chair, in terms of how the figures moved from what I knew, the 3.1 billion, the subsequent figures, I don't know.
So, but you were in charge of that system, not so?
Yes, Chair.
So how did it enter that system if you were in charge?
Chair, I'm not in charge of the EGP system. We are so many users of EGP.
So who signed who signed for the 6.2 billion?
6.2 billion, Chair, the understanding I have is that once my procurement, which I initiated, was not continued with, and the one entered by the engineer from Works was also not continued with, another manual procurement was started, whereby the documents were presented to my junior on the pretext that I was not at the station, which is not true. Thank you, Chair.
Clarification, Chair.
Clarification.
Dakasi here. Chair, on the 12th, on the 30th of May, 2022, August, I think 30th of May, there is a meeting that took place where Mr. Cleopas Ndorore
was the chairperson, and Ms. Bena
Members, can we have some order?
was secretary, and Mr. Nabongo Jackson was member. I imagine this is the contracts committee. When they met, Mr. Cleopas chaired the meeting. And in chairing the meeting, he welcomed members. There were only 2 agendas on this meeting. There was prayer and then communication from the chair. And in his communication, he welcomed members to the meeting and then went ahead right away to say request for approval for repairs and renovation of properties, office space at Farmers House, referenced, the reference is provided on the document attached here, page 1. And the requirement is for repairs and renovation of properties office at the Farmers House at the estimate of 6.2 billion. I wanted to, the clarification I'm seeking is, what informed the chair that this was the value for the renovation? Because the contracts committee in this meeting is not given an opportunity to discuss exactly the values, but is basically told, they are told this is the value. So what informed the chair that this was the value?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've had the name of...
On actually what... So, and actually that is what actually brought the price up to almost 6.6 billion. Because...
You are saying you wanted to bring a certain contract on board.
Holds a degree in procurement.
So she has an answer.
Order, Chair. Order. Order, Chair. Order. Chair.
Order.
Chair, I really want to thank the Permanent Secretary for forming a committee, that an officer attendant, although has masters, has rights over systems of a ministry. Chair and my colleagues is the Honorable Permanent Secretary in order, really who knows the mandate and the roles of officer attendant to come during Brody Day on the cameras when she's covered live, even when her mother-in-law is seeing, to lie to a committee that an officer attendant has authority and mandate over government financial systems. Is she in order?
Mr. Pio.
Procedure, Chair.
Microphone, Mr. Pio.
Procedure, Chair.
Procedure.
Chair, the procedural matter I am raising is in regards to the PS submission. The PS is responding to a very critical question that you raised, Mr. Chairman. How I wish, Mr. Chairman, that we give time for the PS to complete her submission about authorizing the office attendant into the system, which is very sensitive, for it to go on record, Chair.
Okay, but before she finishes, Mr. Pio, get the microphone and tell us who you are. Again, for those who are not there, and what are your job descriptions, then the PS can finish her presentation. Stand up, stand up. No, don't inconvenience them, use that one.
My name is Aopioto, Office Attendant, Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives.
We cannot hear you.
My name is Aopioto, Office Attendant, Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. My role, Chair, last time I submitted my submission to you, I think...
You may have forgotten them, so let me help you.
My roles are to receipt and dispatch of the emails, ensuring safety of the office, property and equipment, other duties as may be assigned from time to time by the head of the unit.
In the previous meeting, we asked you if you have ever participated in procurement. What did you tell us on oath?
Chair, I told you I have not participated in a procurement.
You have never participated. Do you have a password? Stand up. Do you have a password to access the government system?
The password you asked me, it was for IPMS. That's what I told you.
Are you participating in a government procurement?
Even this one, EGP, that's the time when we went for the training. It's when we created those passwords on the system.
This is a letter written by the Accountant General stating that you still have access since 19th January 2022. You still have access to the government system, EGP and IMF users for Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives for the financial year 2021-2022.
Chair, I still have the password, but I don't do procurement.
Procedure.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think with Mr. Pio, as is dressed like a ninja who is trying to hide his face, I think it would have been better. We wouldn't have been with Mr. Pio right now. We would be in the court or somewhere else. Because he's trying, I asked him last time, but why does every person say that you are part of the procurement process? And he said, because they don't like me. And right now we are getting evidence that he was there. Why, using your power as chair and this committee? Why is Mr. Pio still here sitting?
Honorable members, the CID is processing his file. At the end of this meeting, his fate will be determined by you. But he already has a case, he committed perjury on oath. The other decisions you will take during report writing on how to recommend further action.
Honorable Chair, on top of what you've asked, when you check on the people who are accessing and their titles, someone who is saying has never headed either worked in procurement, are you Tom Opio or there is Opio, another Opio? Chair, when you read the list that they furnished you, you can see roles. Tom Opio, this was printed on it was 2022.
That's when his access was created.
Yes, and it is procurement and disposal unit user. What does that mean?
Okay, now, maybe the PS can tell us how she gave him access to the system.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chair and members. I would like to mention that in the year 2022, we decided that the whole ministry would now move to the electronic system of government on procuring. And I asked Ministry of Finance at that time to train all my users. So when a user department, like procurement themselves, because they also do the procurements, and I had also limited staff there because I only had Mr. Lapiem and Mr. Achwera and then also the office attendant. But the office attendant who was there was actually a graduate of Makerere University, procurement and supplies, and also has a diploma. So his CV is here. So this is a man who actually had potential, only that he did not find a job in his profession. So
clarification, Chair.
Demean him to call him or just office attendant, but he qualifies to procure. Now, when they got the training, those are the rights that I actually authorized. I never gave him the authorization to do the day-to-day work. Those rights were given to Mr. Tom Achwera, and those letters should have been given to you exactly by the same person. But I can give you those letters even today.
Honorable members.
Then I wrote to the Ministry of Finance requesting that Mr. Tom Opio also be considered on attainment of service because of his qualification of procurement. And now that was written on that September 2022. So I am still waiting for them to respond back to me. And I'm actually told,
Order, Chair.
wrote to public service.
Chair, order.
Clarification, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. We all know that for someone to become an MP must be having senior 6 and equivalent. But we know that some people have masters and even PhD. And when they are giving someone to chair a committee like you're chairing, Honorable Chair, so long as you have a minimum qualifications, you're a chair. Chair, can I go ahead and
claim and call myself because I'm a PhD holder by title and assume no role, either I elevate myself as a chair, describe myself as a chair because of the papers I have. So the point of order I'm raising, if someone's job description is very clear, much as someone must be having a PhD, but the title reads that this is an officer attendant. Chair, is the PS in order to confuse this house as if we never went to school, that because the person had gotten some books, is right to become a procurement officer?
Clarification, Mr. Chair.
The PS is totally out of order.
Thank you.
Mr. Rapien, in the previous meeting you told us you were seated there, and I remember it was played even on television, watching Mr. Tom do procurement, but because you had been removed from the system. We have seen officers here, according to this document, officers, they have been withdrawn, I think on the request of the accounting officer, from the system. But Mr. Pio Tom, up to now, is still a holder with access to the system. Now, Mr. Rapien, which exact procurements did you physically see Mr. Tom carry out?
Chair, like you confirmed from the EGP, Tom Opio was involved in everything, and I'm saying this before the peers. After we disagreed on the procurement of vehicles, I was struck off the system, and I tried to log in the system. I was no longer accessing, and she can confirm it.
So who did the procurement for the vehicles?
Achwera Tom and Opio Tom.
Honorable gov't?
There is a substantial issue we need to get clear from the gentleman who is the office attendant being on the system. The substantial issue for me, Chair, is to ask the PS whether whatever Tom is doing on the system is with the approval of the PS. Because the Tom could be on the system when the PS is not aware. Did he get this authorization from the PS? So that we know that whatever he's doing is with the full authorization and approval of the PS. For me, I think that is very substantial.
Yes.
Because the gentleman could be doing things when the PS is not aware.
Mr. Chair, further clarification.
Okay, further clarification, Honorable Boyona.
Thank you. As the PS mobilizes herself to answer that query, I would want in her answer to add this. What was the motive of the head, the PS, removing the procurement officers? And that man, I don't know his name, he was very categorical and very clear. And I think he will go to heaven. What was the motive of the PS in trying to remove from the system the rightful officers and appoint the so-called office attendants? I think, as members here, we are attacking the tail, but the head is here. When the center has lost its magnetism, then things fall apart. I think the real problem, the real person who should first be on oath is her. To tell us the truth. What was the motive? Were they incompetent to perform the duty that you had to appoint the office attendant? What was your motive? Is he your boyfriend? What was the problem?
Honorable members, kindly withdraw that statement.
For boyfriend, it is because we are tired of people wasting government money, and I withdraw.
Okay. Now, as the PS gathers, Mr. Achwell, you're on oath and you are supposed to speak nothing but the truth. I expect your next answer to be nothing but the truth. How many procurements the time you have been there has Tom done? Opio. Microphone.
Mr. Opio was there in my office as office attendant. He could help me to move documents in offices, maybe submission to contract committee, photocopying, and taking contracts maybe to Solicitor General. Those were what he was doing. But for a person to do a procurement, at least somewhere or somehow, he has to have a signature appended somewhere. But in this case, I don't think any document concerning procurement he has ever signed.
He's saying, for him, Opio used to take his documents for photocopy, for Solicitor General for signing, and that is his job, and not procurement. That's what Achwera is saying. There are two terms, don't confuse. This is, Mr. Lapiem was the head procurement, and he got problems where we don't know which ones, we are still waiting to hear. He was removed, then he took over for about 2 months, and you left. We have a new procurement officer. We have a legal officer, head legal. Tell us, who is Tom?
Chair, there are two Toms.
The Tom,
There's Tom Achwera and
they
Tom
are office attendant.
Yes, Tom Opio, I've always known him as an office attendant.
Has he been doing procurement?
Chairperson, you've asked me this question before, and just I'll say this again. I have seen Tom handling procurement documents. The extent of involvement can only be justified by the people in his unit, because for us, we are at the tail end. We receive the documents.
You are the secretary, contracts committee, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, formally. Yes, the former committee.
Okay, now the PS can respond.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, members. My designation for my staff and all the training, maybe those are the rights they are talking about. And my appointment onto the system is by letter. And I have a sample letter which I can avail to you later, so that you can see how these people are given the rights officially now to go on the live system to execute on our behalf. But every single member of my staff has rights to use that system just in case for continuity of business, and also the know-how of using that procurement system. But every user department has someone there.
How many officers do you have in procurement, just for clarity? Because from 2022, only 2 people were assigned procurement and disposal unit user. Tom Opio and Ada Kamuchungus.
You see, that is now just one department. Even the procurement department is a user department.
Yes, but we're looking at procurement.
Yes. So every department, even mine, there's a procurement user, even if they are not a trained person. So that's how EGP works.
So you are telling us even the askaris at the Ministry of Trade have access to the system?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a security officer who also has access and raises
Clarification,
for their area. Yes.
Clarification,
Okay.
Chair.
Department.
Chair, clarification. Yeah. We want to, Chair, we want to know whether the PS which he is saying is under the law in the Ministry of Trade or?
In terms of procurement practice, it is good for all the officers to have the know-how.
Is it under the law?
This was actually sanctioned. It's not under the law. It's
you see, a training.
It's administrative that all these officers have access
Madam PS, a training is a one-off. And you actually don't need to give people rights to the system. But these are people who even have passwords as we speak. Anyway, we are going to interact with maybe you are saying the Accountant General is a liar.
I've not said he's a liar.
You said the security guard has access to the system. Can you tell us the name?
I have someone who is called Mugwere.
He's the security guard?
He's the head of the security there.
So he can also do procurement?
He can raise a requisition when they want teas, coffee.
Order, Chair. Order, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Procedure. Chair, thank you for permitting my order. Chair, I've raised a point of order. I know somebody to rise to the level of a permanent secretary has gone through many procedures. Chair, I seek your protection because of my neighbors who are taking attention when
Honorable Kala, Honorable Jen.
Chair, I put up a point of order to the permanent secretary because by her level she's a senior citizen who has risen from levels to where she is. And in front of the cameras, she's really assuming the appointing authority who appointed her, and also giving more shame to the head of public service to tell the whole nation, because the whole country is hearing you, that a security guard, an office attendant, a tea girl in the Ministry of Trade, and a cleaner in the Ministry of Trade has all of them at any level of the, are at the same level and have access.
Yet she belonged to the procurement.
Here I seek your protection because yet the senior officer who was in charge, who was blocked, is the permanent secretary really in order to come and embarrass herself badly in front of the committee and in front of the nation by showing them that she is not to the level of what we expected her to be. Is she in order?
Well, it is hard to make a ruling on that because I don't know if she has embarrassed herself. She's the one who would know that.
Chair, procedure.
So I cannot make a ruling.
Yeah.
Procedure.
Chair, I wanted to bring to your attention how bad this procurement was. Right from the beginning, all government entities at the beginning of the financial year are supposed to do what we call pre-qualification of service providers. That's why the gentleman before you here was saying if they did restricted bidding. Now, what does that mean? You pick these contractors from the one which are pre-qualified. I wanted to know whether those contractors were picked from the one which were pre-qualified. If they were picked from the one which are pre-qualified, let the document be produced here. That is one. So we begin from there. If they are not picked from the one which are pre-qualified, then there is nothing else we can do about this. It's already bad. There was already conspiracy among the technical people. Yes?
Thank you. Again.
Information on the procedure?
Yes, on that procedure. Now, I want to know whether the PS knows the difference between a commitment officer, because I think she's not aware of a commitment officer whom she's trying to misconstrue as the EGP officer. Do you know the difference between a commitment officer for a department and the procurement EGP officer?
You are not finished, Chair. There is the issue of performance guarantee. In this country, the corruption has gone to the highest level. I wanted to know whether that performance guarantee was verified with the bank that issued. That is, they are the one who issued that performance guarantee.
Did the company have, one, was it pre-qualified? Two, did it have performance guarantees? Just a simple two questions. Microphone.
No, in our pre-qualification list, we don't have lists of contractors. We have contractors for minor works only. because the ministry has not been carrying out works. What we did, we sourced from other government entities which have construction. And indeed, that is what we did.
Is there performance guarantees?
Yes.
Accountant, did this company have performance guarantees?
Honorable Chair, it has a bank guarantee, which I asked the accounting officer, bank guarantee, which I asked the accounting officer to confirm, and the contracts manager confirmed that the accounting officer confirmed that it has.
At the time you awarded, were you?
But we need it.
I'm going to ask you one more time. At the time, because you told us in the previous meeting, you had refused to pay because they did not have bank guarantees. Did they have bank guarantees? Yes or no?
Honorable Chair, I paid and I requested the bank to confirm. Yes, they had a bank guarantee.
So you told us lies?
Chair, I said I requested and they gave us the bank guarantee.
When?
I can't confirm now, sir.
Yeah. We need to request him to produce that copy of that bank guarantee. Then two, the officer said
you're not leaving until we see that bank guarantee because you have contradicted yourself.
Secondly, the officer there said the people whom they qualify is for minor works. Therefore, this contract does not qualify for, it should have been open bidding, not restricted bidding. Because you cannot do restricted bidding when the person is not pre-qualified. It's not allowed.
Chair, I said we used restricted bidding because there was insufficient time to complete this
Just a minute. You see, you are trying to use...
And
Mr. Achwera.
Yes.
Members are asking about the law, not the time. The time will come on.
Coming to the law. Coming to the law. We use restricted bidding because the time, the financial year was almost coming to an end, and we didn't have time to conduct open bidding. Therefore, we use this in accordance with sub-regulation 6, 7, 8, and...
Clarification, Chair.
Can we first... This guy is telling us he's above the law, Chair, because the time is over.
Officer, can we all switch off our microphones? Can you all switch off your microphones? Can you finish with those sub-regulations?
Use number of days in accordance with regulation, sub-regulation 6, 7, 8, and 9. As there was insufficient time.
Chair.
Okay, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. On bidding that the procurement officer advised and they opted for. Honorable Chair, one of the conditions that the contract committee may opt for restrictive bidding is to ensure value for money. I have here the report of the contract committee, and in their report, when you look through report under number 2, they recommended that there is no need for negotiation. Honorable Chair, they recommended under number 2 that there is no need for negotiation. Honorable Chair, I am wondering why the procurement officer opted and ensured that they used the process of restrictive bidding, even with the concern that the honorable member has just raised before me coming on the podium. 2, Honorable Chair, still on procurement, when you look at the requirements that are needed for a company to be pre-qualified for this contract, to be awarded this contract, one of them is that a company must have an average annual turnover of 6 trillion. Honorable Chair, when we interacted with this company that got this contract, The company was very open to this committee, a committee that you directed me and I chaired. The company was very open to us that they were not even aware that this was one of the requirements. And it's on the record in the minutes of our committee sitting. Now, I am wondering how this company was given this contract when they even did not know that this was one of the requirements, and they confessed to the committee that they didn't have such an annual turnover. Honorable Chair, I want the head of procurement also to come clear on this as far as selection of the best bidder was concerned.
Okay.
And lastly, Chair, who owns this building that the ministry opted to renovate and yet they are tenants, spending to the total of 6.6 billion plus, Honorable Chair, and yet these are tenants. I'm wondering where they got the authorization from, Honorable Chair.
Can we have a copy of the MOU between Ministry of Trade and Uganda Property Holdings? Because for you to renovate at a tune of 6 point something, this money should be offset from the money we are meant to pay in as far as rent is concerned. Can we have a copy of this MOU?
Honorable Chair. Thank you. Honorable Chair, through you, we have legal officers from the ministry. I've identified one, but I'm seeing another legal officer of, I've not understood exactly his title, what he does. But Chair, in traditional African society, you cannot fight with a cockroach when you have insecticide. The legal officers are there to advise the ministry. So Chair, through you, I'm just seeking clarification. In all this we are seeing that is happening, where restricted bidding was carried out, where the Minister of Works was even kicked out, whatever was done, then where someone was appointed, a cleaner or what, oh sorry, it was you can remind me anyway, but you know. So Chair, I'm seeking the legal officers to help us and tell this committee, if they feel in their own opinion, all was well, all is still well, or we are the ones who are seeing the other part of the coin, Honorable Chair. What are we paying them for as government if they cannot even advise the PS and the team?
Yes, Chair. Can we first get responses from those questions?
With your permission, Chair, maybe I would request my head of legal to make responses to that. I will supplement her submission.
Thank you, Chairperson. It feels good to be mocked, to be in charge at this point. But I want to put it on record that, Chairperson,
Kindly elaborate more on what you have just said.
No,
Who is mocking you?
Chairperson, my colleague just gave me the floor first as the head of legal. But regarding this matter, I will tell the committee without fear or favor that I have not been involved in this at any point. It is him who has been involved, so he can explain.
Okay.
Explain.
Procedure.
In light of the information you have got, Chair, wouldn't it therefore be procedurally right for us to continue with the person who has got the information, unless he is saying otherwise?
She has given him the chance, so.
Much obliged, Chair.
I'm not the one who gave you the opportunity.
Thank you. When you read Section 45 of the Public Finance Management Act, it gives the accounting officer, in exercise of her duties, to put in place effective systems of risk management, internal control, and internal audit to achieve better.
That is 45 what?
Section 45(2). So I believe
that the accounting officer, in exercise of her duties and her decision-making, considers that she's doing so for the best interest of the budget control under Section 45(2). That notwithstanding, on appointment of officers specifically to the system, I do not think the accounting officer does the appointment. That appointment is done by the accountant general, who designates officers on the system.
On whose request?
Usually,
it's not usually, it is a process. On whose request?
The accounting officer requests. And in these circumstances, I am well informed that the accounting officer requested the accountant general to appoint Mr. Tom, I believe he's Achura, Mr. Tom Achura to head these procurements. And I believe she did so in exercise of her powers and rights under Section 45(2) of the PFMA. Does that answer the question?
I've not answered. You're acting like a hitman.
Members, we still have more questions that were asked. Let's first get the responses.
So that answers one. Two, the EGP system currently, there are certain officers that are supposed to raise requisitions. Requisitions are no longer manual in nature. For example, the Finance and Administration Department is headed by the Undersecretary. Each department has a head. And now, including the security, the head of security is a supporting role in the department. We have the head of communications. All those departments have heads. And all those heads raise requisitions through the EGP. I hope that's understood. It is not by mistake. Let me.
Hello. Chair, I want to seek clarification from the legal officer on two grounds. Number one, I want him to clarify what role does a head of security officer as in finances, just finances and procurement only. Restrict your response to that. Excuse me. What role does the head of security, as in areas of finance and that of procurement, in your ministry? Number two, you have tried to defend your overall boss when you were given authority by your immediate boss about the systems he uses. And you have quoted for us the Public Finance Management Act very well. And you mentioned risk control. Many of your colleagues have reported being sidelined. Is that one of the strategies of risk control your overall boss was using? Sidelining people in their own
I'll respond. There are other questions that were asked earlier.
Chair, if it may please, let me respond. He raises very important, very pertinent issues on sidelining. I do not believe that as a correct procedure. Under the section I've raised, the accounting officer has a duty to undertake internal controls and internal audit. Internal controls require that in her execution of her budget roles, are there officers who are doing the work? I can give you an example. This is not a defense to the accounting officer on her work done. This is a defense of the ministry. That is what we are tasked to do as legal officers. My learned colleague has absconded from making a defense to the ministry. You first make a defense to the ministry on its rules, and then you look into the conduct of specific procurements and all that. So, if an accounting officer in her wisdom,
clarification, Chair.
Let me answer that. If the accounting officer in her wisdom thinks that in determining risk management, a certain officer can execute a budget better than a certain officer because maybe of sickness, this officer does not report to work, this officer doesn't do proper work, a specific officer does not understand what they're doing. It is within her powers under Section 45(2) to write to the Accountant General to designate an officer to perform those roles.
Clarification is very important. Officer does not
understand.
Important clarification.
Honorable Macho, then Honorable Mbwa.
Honorable Chair, the legal officer who is a trainee to the senior legal officer is before the committee telling us that if an officer does what she does not understand, and she has used the word she, which means she's referring to the boss in that docket of legal. And at the same time, he has really assured the committee that her boss dodges. She's a dodger. The fact I'm facing a dodger to defend the ministry. Madam Permanent Secretary, is the officer with evidence that her boss is a dodger and does not understand what she does? That's why he came in to take her roles, or withdraw the statement?
Honorable Chair, to clarify that.
Seated next to me to see whatever I was trying to submit. But Honorable Chair, the point I'm trying to bring, he's very clear. He's very clear when he says that the PS can try to appoint someone depending if the other one is not hardworking, cannot even defend the undefendables. He's very clear. So the clarification I'm seeking is either whether you're trying to refer to someone else that is not in this room, or you're referring to your senior colleague, your fellow counsel. And again, when we tasked him to tell us, he said, I quote, that in this regard, he cannot say anything because it was a mockery, because you did it. So I want to know, did she delegate her work to you to do that work? Or if she never delegated the work, the PS, having seen, cited whatever you've mentioned here, could have triggered her to appoint you to carry out the procurement?
Let me clarify. I have not made any specific reference to my learned friend, and with all due respect, she stays the head of legal. I'm only exercising my role as the legal counsel of the ministry in advising and protecting the ministry in some cases. And I would like to further clarify that every procurement committee, every contracts committee has a lawyer under the law. And in these circumstances, my learned colleague has been a secretary to one of those procurements, and in her absence, there is a designation from Ministry of the Attorney General's chambers. They designate an officer to advise on certain procurements. So sometimes my learned colleague advises, sometimes we have an advisor from Ministry of Justice. But that notwithstanding,
how did they do that? Do they give you any formal document or by phone, as we've seen?
No.
How do they designate? We need to appreciate.
Appointments to the contracts committee are done by Ministry of Finance. And Ministry of Finance appoints specifically. Each person on the contracts committee is specifically appointed. No one is by phone call. And with
this regard,
yes?
In this regard,
yes,
of our contract, you are appointed by Minister of Finance, not her.
No. Chair, to clarify on that, I have not been a member of the contracts committee for those procurements. I think there is a wrong misconception.
Chair, honestly, members, I'm sorry to disturb you. I'm very much interested. Yes. You are saying she's off, she did not participate, and you're in charge.
No.
So, who appointed you? Did she delegate you? Okay, answer my question, I posed. Yes. Did she delegate you? Who delegated you?
Delegated me to do what?
To legally advise as per this contract we are talking about?
The advice on contracts under Article 119 of the Constitution, 1195 of the Constitution is with the Attorney General. We submit these contracts to the Attorney General for advice. The entire procurement file, the Attorney General and its constitution, the Attorney General peruses the entire procurement file. And if the Attorney General is satisfied that this procurement meets the criteria of law, issues a letter authorizing the contract.
Mr. Mutegeki.
Yes.
You said you are not involved. I see you signing the contract between Ministry of Trade
yes.
and SARIC.
Yes. And I'm clarifying on how that comes to be. One, the Ministry of Trade submits that contract together with the entire procurement file to the Attorney General under Article 1195. The Attorney General clears the contract. If the Attorney General has not cleared the contract, we the lawyers have no duty. We are not duty bound to even hold a pen. And I'm
okay, now it's just simple because you are trying to beat around with the law. In what capacity did you sign this contract?
As a legal officer.
A legal office?
Yes. I'm witnessing as a legal officer, not sign. I witness the execution of a contract as a legal officer.
And that means you gave advice to anything related to this contract?
Advice on the contract is issued by the Attorney General.
Yes, but as a legal officer in the Ministry of Trade.
Correct.
What is your role? You just witness everything in the ministry?
You see, Chair, before a contract is
Chair,
signed...
clarification.
I know the process of the Attorney General.
Correct.
But you, before you sign such a contract, you are involved in the preparation of this contract. Not so?
Chair.
At what point did you get involved anyway? It's just simple.
That's a good question to clarify. One is that when the Attorney General clears a contract, it must be witnessed under the law. And the requirement of witnessing is that an officer, upon certifying that the Attorney General has cleared, you append your signature.
Chair, clarity. Just my clarification is simple to the legal officer through you, Chair. The contract belongs to the Minister of Trade. Who provided the legal advice in drafting this contract before it is taken to the Attorney General chambers? Is it you or any other legal person?
To clarify on that, these contracts are standard documents.
No, we understand.
Yes.
Who provided the legal advice to the contract committee before it is taken up?
It's the contracts committee.
Chair, this is so amazing. Members, it's now 1:30. We are going to break off. I seek authorization from the Speaker. We will resume at exactly 2:30. We must conclude this matter today once and for all. So I won't seek for permission to continue during plenary with this meeting. We cannot have these meetings every now and then. We must conclude when we have all the stakeholders present. If have not been answered, we shall answer by that time, and I hope the printout of Mr. Tom and his conversations will be here by then.